I was having a talk with my buddy Glenn, and it seems to me that the most thing everybody talks about is change in itself. And you were talking about walking in each other's shoes, and you were talking about incorporating more African American or people of color inside the police system. So my question is that your goal in order for us to walk in your shoes, as you say? Like, what is your goal? Like, what is your option for that? What do you feel to move up with that?
Yeah, my goal is a police bureau that's culturally competent and represents the diversity of the city, because I'm a white guy, I will never fully understand what it means to be a person of color. And so therefore, we have police officers who represent that diversity of our city. They will do a better job than if we were an all-white police bureau. I believe that. And therefore, and so does the chief, and so do our recruiters. So that's why we're trying to recruit a more diverse workforce in the police bureau. I think it will help if our officers look like and have the life experience of the diversity of our city. That's my belief.
So currently I'm sorry, I just got another question here. Currently the police bureau is about 85% white, 15% people of color. So compared to the city of Portland, that's 75% white, 25% people of color, we're about 10% off. And it's also, police bureau is about 15% women, mostly white women, but 15% women. There are women of color, but not enough of them. If there are any women of color who want to apply.
Okay, my name is Loretta Austin, and I represent Dutch PDX. My question for any one of you guys would be, I keep hearing you guys say a lot about diversity, and I just don't understand how diversity could be the main focus. However, the main focus of your employment. However, I believe that discharging police officers that have been offending people of color should be the main focus. Definitely should be the main focus. Let's see if I have another one. What's the difference between police protocol when it comes to hands-on arrest and resisting arrest and a violent behavior, unnecessary behavior? What's the difference between both of them? Is because I feel as though there's a gray area. Nobody understands the difference between a violent arrest and protocol. So that needs to be, that there has to be some type of, people have to be held accountable for that. I was there with the first meeting with you, Mayor Hayes, when you had spoken about how I believe white police officers were being put into a racism class, but I didn't hear you say anything about how that class was being taught by a white man. However, you just spoke and said that you will never ever know how it feels to be an African American or a person of color. So how productive is it for you to know that, to hire a white person to teach about racism, but you just said that you will never know how it feels? It's so, it's counterproductive, honestly. And then you had said, I'm almost done. Then you had said that that you had African Americans teaching other classes, and we had asked you, why don't you have these African American teachers teaching this class about racism? And that's my question for you.
We do a better answer than I gave you last time. We do. And if that class was the only training that our police officers got, it would be an outrage. But it's not the only training. It's one piece of the training. The second question you asked is, are we discharging officers who don't follow the policy? The answer is yes. One of the things that you probably haven't seen much in the media is that we have either discharged, fired, or secured the departure of 12 police officers in the last 2 years. Who knew that, right? Very few people know that. And one of the things that we put in place in my administration as mayor is a discipline guide that says, if you do this, these are the consequences. That was not very clear before. And we are applying that guide, and almost every week, I sign discipline orders against police officers. Sometimes it's an 8-hour suspension, sometimes it's a 40-hour suspension, sometimes it's a termination. And we don't always agree with the union, and that's the relationship between unions and cities, you know, typically. We don't always agree, but I have to give the Portland Police Union credit for this, and that is they have not fought most of those terminations, including the termination of the man who used a firearm and wounded a citizen in a way that was inappropriate, that is Dan Reister. So, again, we're not always one big happy family, this management of labor, but I have to give the Portland Police Union credit for that under Darrell Turner's leadership. When we have used that discipline guide in the proper way, somebody screwed up, they take the consequences and the union doesn't fight us, and I think that's progress.